Welcome to day 2 of the wonderful Christina Ethridge. We're going to talk about email marketing. We're going to get things done today, right, Christina?
We are. So I want to know if everybody's there because I'm actually going to have people do work right here while we're on this, and then show me your work.
Okay. Ooh, I like that.
So we're gonna call on everybody. So is everybody ready for this?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you sure? We're gonna write emails today, you guys.
Write emails. Yeah, sure.
And that seems scary to some people, but okay. So, I want to make sure that we're on the right path here. I know I heard yesterday, especially last night, that some of y'all were like, I don't know what to send my people. I don't know what to say in my emails. I'm not sure what to write, or I'm not a good writer, or how do I talk about things when I'm not selling? Are we all on the right page there? That's what you're wanting?
Really down for that.
Is there anybody who wants something a little deeper, a little more, something a little clearer? Shout it out now, because I will shape this.
I think we're all pretty foggy.
Like it's
Now or forever hold your peace.
yeah, it's dead silent, so I'm going for it.
I mean, I just want to make sure.
Okay, so we're going to talk about how to engage.
Hold on 1 second. Shamika had a thought.
Yes.
I keep thinking that.
Can you possibly move me closer so I can hear you?
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm sorry. I might be totally not in sync with what you just asked, but I want to make sure that when I leave here, I know how to convert my followers to buying clients, loyal clients, because I have a lot of engagement, but not the money. But I think the email is the money. But
So you want to know how to, so from your audience, like on Instagram or YouTube,
Yeah.
you want to know how to get them from there to buying something.
yeah, that, and I need to build my subscriber list for my website because I just got a website.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, and that's cool. And I think that a piece of that is from Kay. And so I will be uploading those that we can watch again and again. And I love what you said, Christina, yesterday about modeling or kind of studying influencers that are doing big things and wondering how they do it. Kay is masterful at blending this is my life, this is my business. And by the way, here's an offer. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick to clarify what Shamika said. When you have a social media audience, you want to make sure that whatever you're putting out there somehow drives people into your opt-in. So that funnel that Caroline helped you make, you're going to be driving traffic into that. That is going to be the fuel for your email list, because those people are going to opt in for that opt-in from your social media audience into your email list. So that's how we're going to get them from just kind of seeing what you're doing into this space where you can date them. And that's what your email list is. You're in a dating relationship with these people who have opted to go have coffee with you, quote unquote. So instead of just kind of watching you or checking you out, I mean, I'm going to totally go with the whole dating thing. Instead of just watching you and checking you out, they're like, I'll go on a coffee date with you. They give you their email address. Now we're dating them. And that's where this whole section comes in. We're going to date them. In order to get people to want to marry you, you have to date them. And so we're going to talk about how to engage your list or date your list so that they open, read, and respond to your emails, so that when you send a sale or a promotion or a flash sale or a challenge or something out of the ordinary from what you normally send, they're like, yeah, okay, I'll go get involved in that. And so that you're going to be dating them so that the email algorithms don't go, whoa, 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 whoa. We're going to put their stuff in promotions and spam. So what I'm going to talk about today, number one, we are going to write emails, but what I'm going to talk about is how to do this so that you don't have a crappy open rate. Like people are actually opening your emails. not only are people engaging and opening, but the algorithm that determines where your emails go or whether they're even delivered, we're able to slip past that gate or those gatekeepers, at least to get into the inbox. So this is a combination of a couple things. So I'm going to talk about some science, but it's just data science. You don't have to do any math. And it's some data science. And I'm also going to talk about some psychological behavioral science. So the piece that's typically missing when people say certain data is the human factor of that data and why we're doing that. So as we move through this, we'll talk a little bit about that stuff. So we're going to talk about how to engage your list so that they open, read, and respond to your emails. I will use the word engage interchangeably with date. Engagement is the #1 key factor in the algorithms. If you want your emails opened, they look at engagement. They look at a lot of things, like you've probably heard about spam filters, and if you have too many links in your email, or maybe if you send too many emails, or maybe if you have the wrong words in your subject line or something like that, you've probably heard a little bit about those getting, triggered, spam triggered, right? So we're going to be talking about the engagement piece of that. The engagement piece is the actual big factor outside of the fact that you're actually a spammer. So if you make up characters to write the word penis in a subject line, you're going to go into spam. Like, you guys know that, like, you looking at your Gmail spam and stuff, you've seen those weird, like, what? I'm a girl, or like you get just this weird stuff. Those are obvious spams. But why do yours go into spam at times? We're going to go through that. Okay. So there are a couple of things that I gave Judy to put into your workbook. And we're going to talk about 2 of those first. The first one is the perfect email send schedule. I'm going to tell you how often to send and when to send. The second one is the perfect email template, exactly what your emails should look like and include. And then we're going to go into actually writing the emails. So the first one is the perfect email send schedule. You're going to see it in your workbook. It's just a basic calendar. And I basically tell you what the ideal frequency is, the best day and time to send, and what kind of call to action to have in your email. Why do I give this to you? There has been a lot of data science done on emails. So over the course of about 6 years, HubSpot and MailChimp got together and compiled data from 30 billion emails sent and received. Some of yours could have been in that, but sent and received. And they took the data from those 30 billion emails and they pulled a whole lot of stuff out of it. And one of the things that they pulled out of it was, how frequently should you be emailing your email list? And so, because a lot of people do like a once a month newsletter, or they email randomly, etc. So I'm going to tell you what the actual ideal, like the super ideal is. And when I say ideal, I mean you get the most opens, you get the lowest unsubscribe rates, you get the lowest report to spam rates, and you get the highest click-throughs, which means people engage. They're going to stay engaged. They're going to stay on your list. Don't have a heart attack when I tell you how many times a month the ideal is. It is 20 to 24 times per month. That is the ideal. Now, I'll tell you all this. Don't have a heart attack.
Christina, they're laughing, and there's a question.
I know what it is. I don't have no. Anyway, I don't know what your question is, but I know why they're laughing. Go ahead.
So my question is, will this schedule that you gave us work in a complementary way with the nurture sequence, or if we're doing a launch and we send out the series to nurture them and make sure that they show up at the launch?
Okay, so a launch is a sales event, and those are different emails.
Okay.
So those are separate. A general nurture sequence. So I'm going to tell you right now, that is the biggest lie everybody is telling you, that you need to have a nurture sequence. Pre-write it, pre-schedule it. That's the biggest lie they're telling you, because it's for open rates, deliverability, and engagement. It's the worst thing on the planet that you can do. However, your sales event, whether it's a launch, a flash sale, whatever, that's different. So we're going to keep it over here in its bubble and all of the emails related to that, not the warm-up emails to get people into the sales event, but the sales event itself is a separate little bubble we're going to put over here. Okay. Does that kind of make sense? So the nurture sequence, I'll get into some of the ideas why this quote unquote nurture sequence is not a good thing for you. Make sure I answer that question if I forget through this process later on today's training. So I get that for you, because I may answer it as we go through. The perfect, like I said, 20 to 24 times a month. That includes 2 groups of emails. The first is what I am going to teach you, and that is not the nurture sequence, but a nurture sequence. I know that's going to sound funny. It's how to engage with your people week in and week out like you're dating them. That is usually the goal of a nurture sequence, but it's not a nurture sequence because we're actually engaging with these people. We're not just throwing emails at them to keep them warm. And I put quotes around that. I know you guys, it's a tiny screen, you can't really see me, but we're going to talk about actually dating your people. And then, so it's those emails plus, I want a big plus sign here, plus your sales event emails. So combined, if you have 2 weeks of a sales event emails, and let's say there's 15 emails in that event, that would be 15 plus the 1 a week that I'm going to teach you how to do. So that would be 19 emails, which is just shy of that ideal 20 to 24. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a total combination of all. So we're going to focus on the part, it's the part that people find the hardest. We find it easier to sell, which is crazy. We find it easier to send sales emails and promotional emails because we know we're sending a sales or promotional email, or we get templates, or we get a copywriter to do it for us, but we don't know what to say when we're just dating. We have no idea. And so we're going to talk about that piece. That, to me, this is the biggest, most important, because it gives you the permission through the algorithms and the human that's receiving your emails to sell to them. So we're going to talk about that weekly email. So what am I saying? You need to send an email 1 time a week, every week. And just like a TV series, you need to pick a day and time that email goes out without fail. There's a reason for that. 1, it gets you into a habit. Actually, there's multiple reasons. It gets you into a habit of dating your audience. 2, it gets them into the habit of opening your emails. 3, the algorithm sees, oh, this sender sends this email that this person opens at this time every single week. They're good to go. So it kind of gives you carte blanche. It gives you an all access pass because they're opening and engaging with your weekly email. So there's 3 main reasons why you want this weekly email. Mine go out every Wednesday at noon, my time. That is the day I picked. That is the time I picked. It just goes out. When you look at this perfect email send schedule, you're going to see some options. I can tell you which days have the highest opens, and which general timeframes, but let's just be real here. There is such a small variance of open rate options between days and times that the most important thing you can do is pick a day and time every single week that works for you to send that email, and you can schedule it. So I want to be as clear as possible. Consistent emailing is what's going to get you higher open rates. And I'm going to show you what to email, but you got to be consistent. So I say on here a couple of things. I send my first weekly email Wednesday at noon. If I am going to send a second email that's not a sales email, if I'm going to send a second email, I send it before 6 a.m. on Sunday, my time. If you look at the schedule, I tell you which ways. Sundays and Mondays before 6 a.m. tend to be 2 really good times to send. And Wednesdays and Thursdays around noon tend to be 2 really good times to send. It's on the schedule. But it's, again, what's the number one most important thing?
Be consistent.
Consistent.
Consistent, but
Convenient,
go ahead.
convenient for us.
Yes.
Pick one. Yeah.
Yes. In order for it to be consistent, it's got to be sustainable for you. So I want you guys to pick your day and time. That's not when you necessarily have to write it. You could write it. Like I write mine on Mondays and I schedule them to go Wednesdays at noon. It's just part of my Monday routine. I do all these things. It's my topic that I do. Boom, it's scheduled to go Wednesday at noon. So, and you get into a routine, it's going to take you less than 10 minutes every week, especially when we go through today and get you guys a whole bunch of ideas. So that's the key. You're also going to see on the sense, actually, I'm going to skip this piece because I'm going to hit into it later. The second download that I gave you guys is the perfect email template. And this template is very specific to the weekly value-filled, the dating email that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the sales bubble over here. I'm talking about the relationship. I'm talking about the long term. I'm talking about, a lot of times people call it the nurture sequence. The problem with the nurture, there's a lot of problems with nurture sequence. We tend to write stuff just to write stuff rather than being reactive to the people so that we can adjust our content, rather than staying current with what's going on, rather than using their language. We tend to treat it like a really long series of billboards when we do nurture sequences, and we don't want to do that. So the perfect email template, here's a few things that you need to do. The subject line, the shorter, the better. Keep it first person. You and I are having a conversation. That is first person. Keep it first person and use personal pronouns. You've probably heard use people's first names. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you send an email every single week and their first name is in it, in the subject line every single week, they ain't going to open it after the second or third time. It's no longer personal. You're psychologically training them to go, oh, this isn't personal. So they're triggered in that. When I may say use personal pronouns, use I, you, we, she, they, he. I did this and I got this result. You can too. Or whatever it is, it's a one-on-one conversation, which is how email was created or why it was created. One-on-one conversation, personal pronouns. So just switch your subject lines. We're not going for blog headlines here. If you've got a blog that you want to promote and the headlines is like the top 3 ways plants thrive in your house, like the top 3 reasons plants thrive in houses, you would want to switch that to these are the 3 things that I did to make my plants go bananas, or something like that. Does that, you understand the difference there? One's a headline and one's actually I'm sharing something with you. It's more conversational. So your subject lines, you don't need a professional copywriter. You just need to turn it into a conversation. And then in this template, I talk about, we're going to actually dive into the content pieces of this, but the body of the email has 2 parts. Remember, we're dating. We're dating these people, 2 parts. The first part is something personal about you. Something that gives them a reason to connect, resonate, follow, be interested in, like you. You need to put personal in it. And we're going to talk about how much and how deep, etc. But here's the thing. People do not buy from brands. Oh, but Christina, I buy Adidas, or I buy Mercedes, or I buy whatever. Yeah, you don't buy from the brand. You buy from the people who represent the brand. And what I mean by that is someone you know, or a celebrity, or an influencer, or a friend, or a family member showed you how cool owning a Mercedes was. It wasn't the brand. It was the people you connect and resonate with. Someone you know, or an influencer or a celebrity, wears Adidas and you like that style. So, oh yeah, I want to have that style. I want to look like that. It's not the brand. Brands hire celebrities and influencers to connect with people and to represent their brands so that people will buy their products. And so you have to connect personally. People need to be able to connect personally with you. So throughout the years, from my emails, people discover random stuff about me, like just because of quick little conversations that I've had. I mean, people discover things like, you know, I have 4 boys. I've adopted both internationally and domestically. I love houseplants. I mean, you've seen in a few conversations. I like houseplants. I'm looking at that. You can see some right here. I like houseplants. I like frogs. I like wine. Like, they don't see these pictures, of course, but I talk about random things like that, somehow related personally to me and what I'm going to be teaching them. So you need to reveal tiny pieces of you. You don't need to reveal your whole life. This isn't about putting your life on display. This is literally about giving them a connection point so that you're not this random no face person out there trying to sell them something. So you need to have something personal in there. We're going to be doing that today. And 2, you need to have some sort of business value in there. And what I mean by that is, you know, the word value is so cliche, but a quick tip, a micro moment that will inspire them, encourage them, teach them, help them, move them forward, something small, just something tiny. And sometimes this is hard to think of and conceive of, but you can take whatever it is that you ultimately want to drive people to buy from you or to use from you, and you can break it up into all kinds of tiny micro moments that give people micro values. That's all that's in your email. We're talking 2 or 3 sentences personal, 2 or 3 sentences business, a signature, and a PS. That's it. You need to keep it short. How many times have you been in the middle of reading an email and you've been interrupted by the Starbucks checkout person because you were reading emails while you were in line for Starbucks, or by your kids or your spouse because you just had a few seconds to grab something and you forgot to go back to do it, or whatever? We need tiny micro moments. And one of the psychological things that we don't think about, but it's evidenced in the data that they show on email, is that if we require people to think almost at all, they won't make a decision. If you give them too many choices in your email, if you give them more than one choice, they won't make a decision. We are on decision fatigue. We are on decision overload. And so it can be a seemingly small decision, like, do you want this or this? Realtors are notorious for this. They're so scared of focusing their email on just getting the listing that they also say, oh, by the way, I love referrals. Oh, by the way, if you're selling your house, I can help with that. Oh, by the way, if you need a rental. Oh, by the way, if you want to invest in this. Oh, by the way, oh, by the ways, people are like done. They're out of that email because it's too much for them to think about. And so that's like, I see that all the time. So if you are going to go, like whatever you're going to go for one thing, one focus. So when your email's in there, you're telling a little bit about yourself, a little micro tip on the business itself. That's your focus. That's it. That little tip, that little tiny thing, whatever it is you're giving, that's the focus. Super easy and clear, which, by the way, this totally frees you up. You do not have to write a novel. You do not have to come up with 10 or 15 different things for a newsletter. You don't have to come up with anything. Your emails can be very short. Think maybe 2 to 3 times the size of a text. And that's it. Really easy. So subject line, one-on-one conversation. Body of the email has a personal, something business. The signature, keep it short. No social links, no verbiage, no website link, nothing. Give them your name. That's it. Give them your name. Give them one little tiny tagline. However, if that tagline confuses from the body of the email, don't do it. Nothing else. You don't want to confuse them. You don't want to give them choices. Now in the PS, the PS that you guys give, you got to make sure that whatever you wanted them to do in the email. So if you gave them a little micro moment, and that micro moment drove to a video that you did, or that micro moment drives to a blog post, or that micro moment says, hey, hit reply and tell me what you think. The PS needs to tell them exactly what that exact same thing was. The PS is just a duplicate of the call to action from the email itself. If you put something else in that PS, you might as well not even send the email. You basically just confuse them. They won't take action. So when you send that email, the body of the email, the goal of the email, whatever it is, if you want to promote your YouTube video, you got to have that in the micro moment, a little tiny, you have to have that in that micro moment, and you have to have it in the PS with a call to action. Nothing else in that PS. It's too confusing. So all those extra things that I say, I talk about, like in other places, I talk about too many images, too much stuff. Let's just keep this really simple. I mean, we're all old enough to know Craigslist and how butt ugly Craigslist is, the Craigslist site is. But even with Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist is still thriving. And it's ugly.
Yeah.
And it's been around for 20 years. And it's ugly. Why? Because it's really easy to find that. It boom, boom, boom. They're not heavy image so that any type of user can search on it. It doesn't matter if they have, dare I say, dial-up or fiber. Anybody can use it. And so they keep it simple. They keep it focused on the thing. That's the irony about emails. We want them to be pretty. We want them to be all this stuff. And even as users, we say we like the prettier emails and we like all this stuff. But the data on 30 billion emails shows that we open those emails that have like one image or less. What's less than one? We open emails with 0 to 1 images. If they have more than one, we are almost 3 times less likely to open them, 5 times more likely to report them as spam. You want one or fewer emails in or pictures in there. So you don't want a lot. This is a fast, quick, and valuable conversation. So how does that make you guys feel?
Enlightened. This is so contrary to what I've been doing. And I just, for instance, I love Farm Girl flowers. And Farm Girl sends out the prettiest letters. And at first I started reading them because it was from Farm Girl flowers. Now I just hit delete. And you're right. And I will hold yours and I'll get to it later when I want to read it because I know it's only going to take me a few seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
And it'll be something you can digest and use.
Yeah. So I'm changing my thoughts.
I went from a full template. So I've been doing email for 25 years. And when I started my online company in 2013, I was looking at how other people were doing email. Didn't think that I should just keep doing what I was doing in real estate, right? Looked at other things and I started doing full template and stuff like that. And I noticed that my open rates weren't as good. It kept going down. And then the data over the course of 6 years came out and I went, oh, all right, stripped it out. Now it's like it explodes. It's really interesting because I sure like to put Ribbit, my guy, in there, but it hurts my open rates. How does it make some of you what are you thinking? What are your thoughts? I'm trying to pull from your minds about this.
I'm loving the simplicity of it because I haven't done any email marketing because I never know what to put in there and it's just the pressure of what to write. And by the time, I just end up getting distracted and doing something else. It's just never done because it's too overwhelming. Trying to think of what to put in, and I don't want it to be the same as every other stupid realtor out there telling people that it's time to clean your gutters. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like over and done, and it's like, well, I don't know. I love how simple that is. That's way less intimidating.
Yes.
You took everything out of my mouth. I like the simplicity as well. Even down to I've been using a signature block, and because I have different audiences for different reasons. I found myself like tweaking my realtor email to look different than if it's for the magazine, and you just blew that all up, and you're just saying, just sign your
Strip
name,
it all
like you
down.
don't need all of these links, and like, I guess we already had the connection, so why did I feel like I needed to do that? But thank you, I think it's like the corporate America had it still on or
Yes,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the signature block where it has the little photo and it has the name, the phone number, the email, the link, and but it's all down at the bottom. And it's just the little image that you brought over from Google Docs and it's linked in there, so it just pops up. And then underneath that, of course, I have to put my little blurb about being careful of wire transfers, blah, blah,
Oh, yeah.
because it just defaults and I don't forget to put that in there.
So, and we're talking different.
Right.
This is bulk email that's going out. So the legal disclaimers and everything, those need to go out on your individual emails when you're engaging with people individually,
After,
but not your big bulk stuff where you're just talking lifestyle tips, personal stuff, things like that we're going to get into in a minute.
so for them, maybe do a swooshy actual signature image that downloads to your bottom.
No images.
Oh, so not even a signature, not even a signed, okay.
You get one picture. So technically you get two pictures, but one of them you can't see. One of them is actually a tiny white pixel that tracks that email for your email system.
Oh,
So you don't get to count that one. So basically you get one picture, and I would not put a picture in every single week. I would vary between putting a picture in and not putting a picture in, but we're counting all pictures. If you've got a banner, get that out. If you've got an image for your signature, get that out. No, it's just your name. And then sometimes I put my tagline, helping online entrepreneurs double their email open rates. Other times I don't. Where I make that decision, my weekly email, I put it in. My sales emails, I don't.
okay.
Because they're on it, they went deeper. They opted into my sales list. It's like another step. They're already wanting that. It just is, that's just what I do, because I prefer to have much shorter signatures on those. But as far as no social links, we're not driving. If you want to drive people to Instagram, that needs to be the focus of that email, not as a random subscript in your signature. So those are the two. You can look deeper on that send schedule and that perfect email template. And you can ask me questions later about those, but that's the basics of what we need to know. So now we're going to get into, I actually have a workshop that I'm creating. It is not created yet. I'm going to be selling it, but it's called 1 Year and Done. And I gave you guys 3 main downloads from this workshop. One of those downloads is 12 months of emails done in 12 hours. And I kind of walk through the tools you need, what to put into your schedule first, etc. I gave that to you as a resource. We're not going to do that today, but if you want to use that and really go super deep, that's awesome. That's there. But the other 2 are, number 1 is 52 weeks of email starters. And the other one is 52 weeks of topics planner. So those are the 2 things we're going to work on today. I'm going to help you have a whole bunch, 52 personal tidbits that you can share. We're going to already have the ideas there, so that when you go to write your emails, guess what? The ideas are already there, and you only need to write 2 or 3 sentences about it. So you don't have to think about what to write. It's right there. So if you can grab that 52 weeks of email starters, I've got literally 4 per page, and each one is like, what is your perfect, one of the questions is, what is your perfect staycation? Describe it real quick. How do you feel about chocolate? What is your favorite way to eat it? Now, do you have to write your personal stuff exactly like that? No, you don't. These are triggers. They're starters. They're to get you going. You might think that chocolate is the worst thing on the planet because it's full of oxalates and this and that and that. Share that. Like, if something triggers you to give you an idea to something else, the point is these are starters. They're triggers to get your mind going. And so if you put this in the workbook, if you just go through, answer as many of these as you can, really short. We're not talking novels here. We're talking really short. Have you ever tried a product and instantly fell in love with it? What was it and why did you love it so much? That's a question. Did you or do you play an instrument? Which one? If you stopped, why? If you kept going, where do you play with it? Or where do you play it? Now, the reason that I gave you these is because you want a whole bunch of ideas, because sometimes a personal idea that comes from you naturally segues into something business. There's a natural, it's like, oh, this is a perfect teaching topic, or this is a perfect, from personal to business. Some of these are going to, others, they're just going to go, I don't even know how to connect this to my business. And so there's this great little phrase that I say, like if I have something personal, I'm going to say, I'm like, oh no, that would relate to business. I can pretty much relate anything to business, but okay, I'm saying like this, like, I just want to talk about my plants. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, my plant. And I don't know, whatever I'm talking about personal. And then I'll go, and anyway, on to business. And that's how I'll segue. I will not even try to make it run into each other, because I know if I sit there and try and do it, like try that segue, if I can't naturally think of it quickly or have it written down ahead of time, then I won't end up writing that email. So I don't. So you have permission to make a rough segue. I just want you to know that it's okay. You're just revealing something small. If you can create a learning lesson from it, that's even better, like something related to your business. I mean, I talk a lot about consistency because it is so important for email success. It is so important for life success. I talk about self-discipline because consistency comes from self-discipline. So I talk a lot about mindset stuff often that leads into, like, that I'm learning and doing, that lead into something that's relevant to what I'm teaching and talking about. For the straight-laced hippie, I just love that. I don't know why I'm still on that. But I mean, if you ever go out thrifting or you go to garage sales or anything like that, you could do, not only could you talk about like you personally and whatever, but those are so easy to segue into how to repurpose things for their houses, how to save money, the first things people need. Like you have so much, like in my brain, I'm like, you've got a plethora of content. Just start writing down your ideas and get going. But I know sometimes it feels like we don't, but I'm obsessed with that name.
We can tell.
I just think it's perfect. It's like, it's totally, anyway. So I want you to go through at those 52 weeks of starters and just start throwing fast little bullet points or notes down on those, because doing that is what's going to enable you to very quickly do that personal piece of your emails. So this is a working session, right, Judy?
They have it in the file section.
Yeah.
If you go, it begins on page,
Is it in the booklet that Sharon has? Okay.
yeah, the top of it says, 1 year done, 52 weeks of email starters. I don't have it's page 69, I believe,
Yeah,
of our workbook.
It's an email or an?
No, it's an
It's in the social media and marketing
So it's not an email.
Facebook group.
You just
The
have to
Facebook
scroll
group.
down.
Go into the files,
Facebook,
and there's only 4 files in there. Look for the workbook. I believe we're at page 68 or 69. I can't tell from my phone. It's too little. I can't tell.
So I want to kind of do a fast, like I want you to race yourself. And so for the next 15 minutes, I want you to go through and put 3 to 5 words for as many of these as you possibly can that relate. I will set a timer. I'm also going to put on some music, but hold on, let me get the music.
Okay.
Oh, you want me to put on some music? Oh, yeah.
Everybody good? Everybody find the resource?
Page, I'm sorry.
Because if not, I can send it to us in the messenger group.
I
It's
just can't get it to open up. It was my
What
problem.
page, I'm sorry.
69, I believe. So let me,
You know what, let me try to do this.
It just takes a while to
Okay,
download.
got it.
If it's a lot of pages.
I'm sorry?
Maybe it takes a while to download.
Yeah.
What?
I'm gonna send it to you through Messenger, ladies. Maybe you could open it quicker that way. Let's hope that goes through better. But I was able to open it on
Yeah,
my
I was
phone,
too. If you
so.
look at view files versus post.
Do you want us to start randomly or start at the top and work down?
Whatever works from you, just like race yourself to get as many as you can. That's the goal.
And the first 3 pages to get you started via the messenger group chat.
And what page? I'm sorry, what page are we on?
Social media and marketing, beach retreat.
Right, I got that.
Oh, go into the files
I
section,
got it.
page 69, I believe.
69. Okay, that's all I needed.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
She printed that one.
Oh, okay.
But I also sent it through the group chat if that's easier for you. to
Already
find.
got it open. Yep.
Probably not opening this.
Do you want to say like some of the?
Okay, so we're doing like personal stake.
Yeah, so.
Perfect staycation.
Sorry.
Okay.
So the perfect staycation. So you want us to do a subject line?
No, I just want you to throw down 3 to 5 words that will help
Oh,
trigger you. Yeah, super fast because
Here, I'm still looking here.
so this is just, guys, this is just super 3 to 5 words or 6 words that will, when you come back to it, you're like, oh yeah, that's what I was going to write about. And then you can quickly add more later. And as many as you could possibly fill out, this will set you up for the whole year.
So that's our staycation where we would want to live or go.
Things you want to do while staying at home, right? Your staycation is you stay put,
Oh,
but do while you're there, right? If you
Okay.
had time to just do.
Some people's perfect staycation is remodeling a bathroom. I mean, like, because they love DIY stuff. Other people like go to a hotel where they're at. What's yours? I was going to turn music on, Judy, but if I turn it on, I can't hear them ask me questions.
You don't have to do music. We're good.
Okay.
We're doing a coffee maker. That's the music we need.
I don't know. I'm starting to hear a truck outside.
This is fun.
This is the quietest we've been since we got here.
This is fun.
I had sent Judy a message and I said, they don't need any internet for today. I'm gonna make them right.
This is perfect.
And one thing, because some of you have this personality that you go through things in order. If something, you just can't pull anything out of you to do it, skip it, go to the next one. Do the ones that are fastest. So that's how you take a test. You answer everything you know the fastest, then you go back. How you guys doing?
Good.
How far do you think you are? How many?
I just got to 1 year done.
You got all 52?
Oh, wait, no. No, that's what it says at the top. What page am I on? I'm on page 73.
I took the screenshots that you sent.
Got about 10, dozen, 20, 5?
I've got about 30.
Okay, there's about 13 full pages. So I want to make sure that I really give you guys this time to get these written down, because I do know that when I leave places like this, I don't tend to go back and dump it all. So if you've got at least 5 or 6 pages,
Yes.
does everybody have about 5 or 6 pages of stuff?
Sharon says yes.
Yes.
Amber, yes.
I think so.
Yeah, I could use it.
Okay, Dancy, Shamika, okay. 3. Heidi and Rebecca.
I mean, I,
Does anybody want another 5 minutes to pop more out? If you don't, you're fine. If you do, you're fine.
Raise your hand if you want another 5 minutes, be honest. Okay, yeah, we want another couple of minutes, yep,
Okay, got it.
thank you.
These are thought-provoking.
Uh-huh.
I think another 30 seconds or so, we're good to. Thanks, Christina.
Do you guys have enough chairs that you can all sit around the table?
Around the table,
The big table?
I think so.
Well,
Yeah, there's one right there. There's some out on the patio.
I'll bring them in. They're sitting. Thank you.
Because this next session, I'm going to have you guys collaborate all together.
So 3:30.
Oh. Yes.
Well, you guys are really into your coffee, eh? All right.
There is a chef or a cookbook author that I follow. She makes amazing sugar-free desserts and just amazing things. But every single day, she has got a coffee meme on there because she's obsessed with coffee. And it's, you know, basically either coffee is my IV or I drink coffee for your safety, not mine. You know, like it's hilarious to follow her. And I don't drink coffee at all. So
I do, but when these guys said IV, coffee IV, I'm moving you closer to them.
okay,
I was thinking, that's funny, haha. But these girls,
they really do.
They're serious.
They'd be serious about their coffee.
That's right. They're not messing around. I got to find a plug, but keep on going. Let's see here.
Okay. So what we're going to do next is the 52 weeks of topics planner. I don't have triggers for you because each of your businesses is different. But here's what I want you to do. I want you guys to work together to come up with 52 if we can, but 52 topics. And these are the micro moments that I was talking about that you can talk about in your emails. And here's how I want you to do it. And I'm literally doing the same thing that you guys are doing right now with my things. So here's an example. Obviously, I teach email. That perfect email template that I talked about, there's all kinds of things that are included in an individual email that are important. And so I started separating everything and writing down. So 1 week, my micro topic would be the number of links in your emails. That's just all I wrote. I know what to talk about, but that's all I wrote. So 1 week for me would be number of links in your emails. Another would be personal pronouns in your subject lines. Another would be get people to reply to your emails. These are all little tiny things that I can talk about in 2 or 3 or 4 sentences in my emails. Now, the reason that I want you guys to work together is because I find when I'm listening to what other people are talking about, even if their business is completely different than mine, that triggers ideas for me and mine. So in this one, this is kind of a group collaboration. I want you guys to all come up with, just slam through the ones that you have as fast as possible. Like if you can come up with stuff right away, put it down on your list. And then I want you to share individually each one you've gotten. And then each of you go, oh yeah, I could, you know what? I could change that. One of the best things I ever used was Trulia Answers in Real Estate, because it'd be like, well, what questions are people asking? Well, if you don't have an email book full of questions that people, if you're emailing you, if you go to Trulia Answers and look as a real estate agent and look at the questions people are asking, it's not real hard to replace how do I find XYZ in Sonoma, California with how do I find XYZ in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It's not real hard to replace that concept. So that's the concept that we're going for here. So I want you to write down like just tiny little things that you can remember people asking about. So what do they ask about fibromyalgia? What do they ask about real estate? What do they ask about repurposing furniture? What do they ask about your topic that you wrote your book? Like just start writing those down right away. And then just like give me some indication that you've dumped your brain as much as you can. And then we're going to collaborate together. So let's start with like 10 minutes of a brain dump on your own. And then we're going to do a collab. Is there any clarity or triggers you guys need help with to do this so far?
Looks like they're all starting to write. So.
Awesome. One thing I want you guys to think about is I don't have to look at any of your topics on your notepads to know that each one of those topics that you've written down can probably be broken up times 10. So that's what I want you to do. So take your topics that you've put down and now break it up into 10 sections. Meaning, if people say, how do I, one of the questions I get is, okay, what do I send in my weekly emails? Okay, I can break that up into a whole bunch of things because I can talk about the personal piece. I can talk about the focus. I can talk about how long your email should be. I can talk about consistency. I can talk about like all these different things. And that's where I want you to go with these, because most of us have way too big of a little, we think it's a little topic, but it's too big. So when people ask a question, which is sometimes why we fail to actually get out there and create the content, it's because we know they need all of this backstory, but we've got to change our thinking to go, I'm just going to give them that little needle of information and not worry about the rest. So take the topics that you've written down and now go deeper, meaning splinter them out more. And if you need some help, throw out, I don't know all your industries real well, but if you need some help, for an example, somebody throw one out that you just can't figure out how to break up more, and I'll try and help you.
Christina, when did you want us to shout out those questions?
Sorry, I muted so you couldn't hear my ice. Go for it.
Okay, so one of the questions that I get is how to move forward from worry, like how to stop being a worrier. I hear that.
Hey,
from
do you happen to have a typical, like, I don't know, 5 steps to not be a worrier?
I haven't done that.
Okay.
Done that.
So a lot of times what you can do is you can answer the question at length. Like I would write it down or put it in a video or some way that it can be transcribed so you can see it. Look at all the things that you've told them, and each thing is one topic.
Okay.
So it could be as simple as I'm just going to make stuff up.
Okay.
So just bear with me. It could be as simple as, you know, I set up this 3-step morning routine that helps me not worry. We know that is not the whole solution, but that's a one tiny little tangible thing that they could do to part of that. The other piece could be, I take a bath every single night. I realize those are like made up things, but each one of those is a tiny sliver of the topic that would be in your email.
Yeah, and I see how that could work for probably everybody sitting at the table, like the real estate gals that have clients that are worrying, like a checklist for them so that they know that they're organized with whatever stage of, like maybe they have to sell their house. So they need like a checklist of what to do to prep so that they're not worried.
And if you have a checklist, each item on the checklist is one email.
Wow.
Each item. So that's why I'm telling you how micro this is and how tiny this is.
Okay.
So I've got 21 topics right now just from the one template that I showed you. So when you really, especially if you can go through and kind of throw down your thoughts, you can really break this up a lot. People love to digest in tiny little bites, which is why some people are just like, especially when it comes to like nutrition or health or things like that, you know, people like, well, what have you done with your skin? And I'm like, well, really, it starts with this. But people, we want to know fast answers. We want that magic pill. We know what we're giving them is not the magic pill, but it's something they can grasp onto to start the journey. So don't try to solve the whole problem. Just give them a life ring.
Okay.
It also makes it a whole lot easier to get content out because you realize you don't have to write a novel every time.
Yeah, right.
Oh, like, I'm not sure how I would break apart. I was just writing down all the different questions I could think of that I've been asked about real estate.
Uh-huh.
And one of them was like, should I landscape before I sell?
Well, you have a couple things. You could write when to landscape before you sell, when not to landscape before you sell, what to put in, what not to put. Like those sound like the same thing, but they're kind of different. You're telling them when to landscape. Well, when it's this, or when the market's like this, or when not to landscape, when it's this, and then like, what do I put in? Well, then you can determine what to put in or what to do. There's a lot, like just that question is probably several different emails. Because you're wording it you're also using it to word things the way people think, the way we ask questions in Google. And it's not logical. I mean, like the way I do it is not logical to some of you. The way some of you do it is not logical to some of me. It's because we're humans and we think differently. And so when we have different variations of the exact same thing, that helps our emails appeal to everybody, even though it's the same subject, even though you're actually teaching the same thing.
And we're still talking about putting these into the 2 sentence or two lines for personal, 2 lines for topic, and then signature and you're out.
Yeah, don't worry about the size. Like if you think this question is longer than it should be, that's where I want you to go, okay, how can I break this up?
Okay.
What can I focus on? You could even go as tiny as, what is, like, I don't know, maybe there is a tree that everybody seems to think is perfect for landscaping. And you're like, if you think you need to landscape before your thing, don't do this. Don't put in this tree. Here's why. Like, that's how tiny I'm talking about. You just basically give them a, oh, okay, then I don't ever want that tree. In our area, it's one that dumps all the yellow stuff. Like you park underneath it. It's always in the swells.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the name of it. It was in, we had a house somewhere else and it was there. But anyway, but that was what, like, that's an example. It's that simple. Whatever you do, if you're landscaping, don't put this tree in. Or that's how tiny it is.
I get asked a lot, is there gonna be any new construction? So I'm thinking that could be broken down several ways.
New construction available or new construction around, like, are people building around that? What are they asking?
Will there be any new construction soon? Will there be any new tracks being built? Development tracks, yeah.
Always interesting that they ask that because it's always yes. There's always construction going.
Oh, we're short homes, we don't have homes.
No, but yeah, there probably be, and so
So they're wondering, are they gonna get rid of the agriculture and build tracks there?
They worry about that in country too. They don't want it. Are there any plans for development? Because we're moving the country to be in the country. We don't want to move in and then have a big thing, put up a neighborhood built next door.
well, you don't have a crystal ball, obviously, but I mean, if history keeps repeating itself, which it does, the answer would be yes. But you need to micro. What to do? You know,
Where do I? How do you tell?
what to do when there aren't houses available?
Right.
People give up. My son's saving from, like, literally houses have doubled in the time that he started saving money. And he's like, I'm like, don't give up. Here's what you do. And so I started walking through, here's what we're going to do. You're going to beef up your, you know, blah, 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 blah. Like different processes to do that, how to do this, where you're going to have to look, how that's a whole billion different things, not billion, but you know, there's a whole lot of different ways to take pieces of that question and answer pieces of it. You're not stuck to 2 sentences. That's an idea of about how long. It's about 2 very short paragraphs, a few sentences each. I want you to go really tight, which means what you're focusing on in these things are microscopic.
Microverse.
So, so you guys have done, or you're doing the individual brain dump. Now what I'd like you guys to do is just go around and share one of yours that you want to share with other people that you think that they might be able to get an idea from. So, meaning I want every one of you to put on your, how can I make this question work for me hat? So each person that shares, share a different kind of question, but I want each one of you to then take 2 or 3 minutes to think, how can I make this question, or how can I switch this question around? How can I modify this question to make it work for me? And I have my tablet and pen ready because I'm going to leverage this time for myself too. And I'll give examples of this. So Nancy, do you want to go first?
Sure. Should I just do my first one and the
Yep.
breakdown?
Yeah.
It's not the funnest. It's
That's
not
okay.
fun, but how do I stage my home to sell? And so how do I stage my home? Purge and organize, hold and decide, you know, that lady that used to say, pick it up and if it brings you joy, otherwise let go. Pack and give away what you know you don't want. Pack up what you know you won't use in the next 6 weeks. Deep clean bathrooms, clean windows and screens, baseboards and air filters, deep clean kitchen, refold linens, new
So
hangers.
those are all snippets from that.
Yeah, do you want me to go on my first one?
Yeah.
That's- Okay, the general one.
So another piece that came from this is not going to help me, but it might help you, is literally, I know so many people who do these things to prep for sell, and then they're like, why didn't I do this sooner? I like this. Why am I not? So I would definitely put that in your process. But how do I stage to sell? Has anybody figured out a way they could modify, that's not a realtor, that could modify that question based on your business or industry?
I can think of, with my ideal client is probably somebody that's drug around a lot of past wounds and past trauma. And she finally gets to the point where she's like, I don't want to feel like this anymore, and I'm ready to deal with it. You know, why didn't I do it sooner?
Ready to
Like they're ready to just like, yeah,
get
like,
rid of it.
yeah, like ready
Ready
to
to give my
time.
crap away.
Yeah, get rid of the junk and move on and be happy.
Don't ever open that box again.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, well, so she had the question, and then why didn't I do it sooner?
That's what.
Well, her question was, how do I stage to sell? But then it triggered a brainstorm. I was like, well, people are always saying, why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't I, whatever, which helped trigger we're going for brainstorming here, triggers.
I think, does it really make a difference? Does it really make a difference?
Right. Good point. Yeah. The way you did your pants.
Would that be under, so I listed off all of the subtitles for my How Do I Stage My Home?
Yeah.
So that's what I did, listed off all the subtitles.
Yeah.
Would it make a difference, be in that?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would put it in. In fact, it just triggered thank you, Judy, because you just triggered me, because people are like, they don't have an idea on how even a 1% increase in their open rates, the difference that it makes on the end. And I just created a calculator. So I'm like, oh, if they just raise it from 18 to 19% open rate, that's a 5.5% increase in their business. And so like I have all that. I'm like, oh, I need to write that one. So thank you, Judy. But that's where I'm going with, like, she's talking about, does it really make a difference to stage your home or to do this? And I'm like, well, does it really make a difference? You know, your email open rates, does it really make a difference to get rid of or walk through or work through the trauma? Does it really make a difference? Where can that one be used?
Right.
For you guys.
Or also the whole thing of, can I really do this myself? Do I need to pay a stager to do this?
Do I need to pay a realtor?
Yeah. Do I need to pay a Christina Ethridge to do this, or any one of us, right?
Can I DIY?
Yep.
One of the things that you always see all over social media, like an artist or a creative or somebody somewhere will show something that they've made, or maybe somebody will, like me, will show something I purchased, and they're like, oh, I could have made that for $5. And I'm like, no, you couldn't have. And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah. Do you have the saw to cut the wood? You gotta go buy that. Do you have all of the supplies? You can't just buy the exact supplies you need. So like you literally, unless of course you're already in that field, but most people are so focused on the, I could DIY it, that they completely miss the time, the tools they have to purchase to do it. They miss the value of all these other things. And if you can bring that up and show people through math problems, not even through math problems, but like if you can show them all of that piece, that helps them make a decision, a realistic decision. Do I use a stager? Or yeah, I can pretty much, I know how to purge and I know how to paint and I can do it and I have the time. Or I don't have the time, we need to do, you know, whatever. But for any one of you, things like that, that people, we, especially in the US, we completely ignore the value of our time. We completely ignore it. And so if you can bring that up, This will take you approximately 5 hours. You're already busy and overwhelmed. Where are you going to pull these 5 hours from? Whatever. That's just an example.
And even if, to that point, if it's the first time you do it, things are always harder than you think. And they
Try it
take
triple the time. Yeah.
times as long. Yeah.
And you can buy all the stuff and make it and not like it. Go
Yeah.
back and buy
It's
what
not
you
gonna
got
look
in
the
first
same
place.
as this person who's made it umpteen times. Yeah.
Clearly, they've never seen Pinterest fails.
Right. I love it.
They're hilarious. All right. So, Amber,
Yeah, I can do it by
And
myself. I don't have the road to that.
actually, Rebecca. Sorry, Rebecca, you're next. Yes, you guys are out of order, but I'm like, wait, that's Rebecca. Go ahead and throw out one and let's see how we can all use it in different.
Well, all I did was just a whole bunch of random questions. I didn't go deep as far as breaking it
That's
down.
good. The random question is what we need to help trigger the brainstorm.
So, should I get an investment property? That's something that I hear, like, when is, I'm looking at my first house, and eventually, at some point, I wanna get an investment property. Is that a good idea to plan for? And at what point, how long do you think it'll take before I can get one? And just, or even if they've already got their house and now they're maybe a couple of years in and they're like, I wanna start looking at investment properties, what do I need? That kind of thing.
Okay, so in your case, there's a couple of things like,
Right?
literally, should I get an investment property? So if you have like here's three ways to know if you should or shouldn't, whatever they are. That could be a quick checklist, this, and this. If you follow Dave Ramsey, he's got his baby steps. They're very clear. You don't do investment property until baby step, whatever. It's like, so if you have a process and a journey, and that's an example of a very clear linear path to know when. But you asked a whole bunch of other questions on there that can be like, that can be so divided up into so many different ways. So for any of you guys, it's not an investment property, but the concept is, when should I expand what I'm doing? When should I add on? When should I add a revenue stream? When should I add more? So take that concept. How can you guys use it?
Are you gonna manage it yourself, or are you gonna have somebody take care of it for you?
Well, that's what I have to use my realtor for, so you can advise me.
So, I mean, that's the.
Or when is it time to hire a coach?
Right?
Am I ready for a coach? Because there are a bunch of coaches here.
And why do I need one?
Yeah, like what is she really gonna do for me? Is it, again, back to the old, is it gonna make a difference? But
Yep. No successful athlete is without multiple coaches. And we don't equate ourselves as business owners to coaches. I mean, to athletes, but we are.
Yep.
But any athlete at any time has at least one coach. The higher up the ladder you go, the more coaches you've got. Because they all specialize.
Right.
Your grip on the tennis racket, your swing on the tennis racket, your serve. You know, you're like, there's coaches for all those different things. It's crazy. I was reading something about Tiger Woods coaches and the number of coaches he has and all the different, or did, this was years ago. And I was like, I need coaches for specific things in my life. That makes sense. And I think every one of you can use that idea. I wouldn't, now it's really interesting because we can say, do I need a coach, or answer the question for a coach in general. But if you say, do I need a realtor, or answer the question that I need a realtor, every single person is going to think you're biased and trying to sell your services. So you've got to figure out another way to talk about that. Should you talk about the ways to DIY or go it alone or whatever, or FSBO it versus a realtor, but never say you need a realtor. Let them decide, because if they come to the decision on their own that they need a realtor, they will stick to you like glue. If they feel like you forced it on them, they won't. So any one of you, like the trauma stuff, like when do I need a guide? If you're not going to call yourself a coach, do I need a guide? You can talk about the data behind, like several years ago, we launched something inside of our membership called Progress Pods. And those Progress Pods, when people are involved in those pods, they move forward 80% faster than people who are not. So from the same membership, we've tracked it, we know it. They also stay in the membership longer. So that's a boon for me, but they accomplish 80% more and get 80% more done. And so we have that data. Do you have that data on something? People who have a guide. So I know if they're in a progress pod, I know they're going to move forward 80% faster. Do you have something, people who have coaches, they move forward faster. They work through their trauma faster. They work through XYZ. If you can find that data, if you can find anything that would support that, people who use a realtor sell their house for, on average, 19% more than not? I don't know if that's the number anymore.
Let's make it personal. I love the idea of data. What if one of your subject lines were how I saved my client, plural, like 2.89 million bucks. When you look at all your clients and you realize how much more money you got them or how much money you saved them if you're on the buy side. What do you think of that?
Yes. And instead of saying my client, I would say how Cheryl, I'm sharing or something about how Cheryl saved, whatever your client's name is, $2.8 million doing this. And you show them.
Okay, I was thinking of all my clients, so it's a big number. That's where the 2.8 million came from. Like,
oh, no, you want it one-on-one. You want it realistic and believable.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So you'll see posts in groups like there's a couple groups that I'm in that, they're women entrepreneur groups, and they're like, how to get $100,000 a month or whatever. If you're not doing $100,000 months, then I'm like, okay, that makes sense for the percentage of people that are up there. But most people are like, dude, how do I get a $2,000 a month in my online business and never go down? Or a $5,000? I'm like, realistic numbers. And so you want to hit those because they believe them, and they shouldn't be even numbers. Should be a real number.
Right.
How I made $9,437 last month doing this. Or
Wow. Right.
Every one of us could use that.
It's so much more believable because I can't stand it when people embellish. As soon as I think you're going too big, I'm like, yeah, I'm a believer.
Well, you know what? I just thought of a spin on that would apply to coaches. Like how I helped my client, like I'm trying to think of like not lose, 13 work days in the last quarter due to feeling burned out and fatigued or chronic fatigue or like whatever their thing is. Like how you would word that, but you get the gist of it.
Yeah.
yes, you could even go a little bit more, even more lifestyle personal.
Yeah.
My client slides down the slides with her grandkids with no pain, or goes swimming with what is the end result? They want to be able to, go sit on the sand and make a sandcastle with their grandkids, or so if you can even go deeper into what's actually to them, what does that mean? Does it mean being able to play the piano again? Does it mean being able to, like I said, sit on the sand, take that even deeper into something that has more value to them? I know this sounds weird, but it has more value to them than not losing days at work. For women, it's relationships. Oh, we want money. I'm not counting that out, but we want money to give us the time and freedom to have the relationships. So we want the relationships. So that means with our grandkids, that means with our kids, that means with our girlfriends, that means with our husbands or spouses or whatever. So if you can take it even deeper into that piece, that's the transformation that they're looking for. They're looking for that lifestyle. So I would start asking your clients
Good. I like that.
questions. And here's how you get them to, okay, what do you want? I want to make money. Okay, so if you made money, what would you want from it? Well, I want to make money so I can have time. Okay, so if you had time, what would you want from it? And you keep asking the question. It's called 7 Levels Deep. He's actually a former realtor that wrote this question. You just keep asking the question. If you had that, what would that mean? If you had that, what would that mean?
Right.
And that's where you get to, I think it's Michael Mayer, that wrote the book, 7 Levels Deep. I might have the author wrong. But if you keep asking that gets to the true root of it. And that's where you pull those things out. And you're going to just, how I can now build sandcastles with my grandkids because I did this.
It gets to the heart of it, yeah. I know I talked about that on the group coach, 7 levels deep. I just asked the question, why is that? Why is that? But I like how you said that, Christina.
You repeat what they say and say, okay, and then, yeah.
Yeah, what is that? How did you say it? What is that? What will that do for you?
Or what does that look like?
What does that look like? It's part of, I've been through several to become a coaching trainings. And one of the things that we learned I had to do, I was like, oh, dang, those are good. You're not actually, coaches are not supposed to tell you what to do or even guide you. Coaches ask the questions so you discover. So if you can do that with your people, you're going to discover what's really motivating them and then what to write about in your emails, because stories, a quick story is a good little business piece.
Yeah.
Like she did this and it does it. I mean, one of the great stories that I have, our church is a really big church, does this discipleship training all over the world, is like the leader in that. And so I came in and I helped them with their email marketing. Like they weren't doing email marketing. I helped them with their email marketing. And we were going along, and a couple years into it, she was getting, the person who was doing it was getting 30 to 40% open rates. And I said, what do your subject lines look like? Are they headlines or are you actually using personal pronouns? She's like, oh, they're headlines, like on the blog post. I'm like, oh, why don't you just switch up this next week and use personal pronouns? So she switched it up in 1 week, did nothing else different, 72% open rate.
Wow.
And so I can share that. What Charles did, the one thing she did that took her from a 34% open rate to a 72% open rate in one email. That's a fast story. And I literally I can say, went from headlines to conversations and blah, blah, blah in about 2 short paragraphs. Super fast.
So
Go ahead.
instead of saying, are we ready to invest? What would you, for an email header for that one about the little investment, are you ready and when will you know you're ready and what do you need to do?
Well, if you have a client that like there was a trigger that they knew they were ready, like there was a tipping point that they knew they were ready, I would use that tipping point as how to know you're ready. Even though there's a whole lot of other things that have to be done, in a short little 2-paragraph email, I would use that tipping point.
What would you title that email to get them to open that?
Depends on what the tipping point was.
So could you say like, how Kathy knew she was ready to blah, blah, blah?
Well, she said, don't use it.
Yeah, it depends on what the topic is, but you can use different things like, so, oh gosh, so it would really depend, like reading it would depend on what the result was, the story of what you're writing is, but you don't have to put that in the subject of the email. It could be the personal stuff. It could be a personal focus. Here's what triggered me to buy my first investment property. Here's why I bought my first investment property.
I like that.
It's super easy. And you just quick share. Here's how I knew that I was supposed to buy this property or this first investment property. You have all kinds of different ways you can write that.
Okay. Yeah. And I would have put something like thinking of buying.
Right.
Totally cheeseball and weird.
Yeah, so keep those out. Remember, so here's the way you think about it. You're standing in front of that person face to face. Would you say, thinking of buying? Do this. That's all you have to do. Does it pass the in-person one-on-one conversation test? If you would feel cheesy doing it, don't write it.
Yeah.
When do you think you'll be ready to buy a second property? Or do you think you would ever be interested in an investment property?
And that's a very real estate focused topic.
Right.
You're actually, and don't ask a question unless it's actually,
Right.
unless you're going to have them hit reply and respond. We're giving them micro value. So we're not asking them, are they ready? Because that's a sales pitch.
Here's what I did, or here's what
Right.
This is literally just, yeah, in that case, the one way I knew that it was time for me to step into investment, how I chose duplexes over commercial or the opposite, like different things, like you're giving them value and in tiny micro things.
Multifamily over single family.
Okay, next person that wants to share one of your topics. Yeah.
This is kind of a perfect segue. I'm going to use example. I'm a distributor for Herbalife products, and I actually feel like I show more than tell. That's been successful. So when I show the before and after pictures of how I lost 24 pounds, the first question is, how do you lose the weight? Everybody wants to know, how are you losing the weight?
Right.
So our strategy is we actually do an evaluation with them. And so we don't just jump into telling you how to lose the weight. We actually want to peek into what is your current routine.
Mhm.
Your daily routine look like? What are you eating from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed? What does your exercise look like, or do you exercise?
Okay.
How much do you spend on food, right? So we're gathering information, and then we explain to them how our program works, our meal plans, because then it, like you said about coaches, you ask enough questions for them to for a person to come to their own conclusion. Now I'm getting, through you saying that, I'm understanding how what we do works, because we've gathered this information. They're hearing themselves say it out loud. And so when we get to the price, if you already told me you spend $200, $300 a week on eating out or on groceries, when I tell you the meal plan, if you tell me that that's too expensive, then you're not serious, or maybe you're not really ready to lose the weight. So that, I think this is a perfect example.
Well, and I would even go even in a whole bunch of other pieces, like other ways than that. So an example of this would be, people are asking you, how do I lose the weight? So you need to write down not just that you did Herbalife, but what are all the things that you did? I started changing what I drank. I started changing up my routine. These are the routine things that I changed. Each one of those is small things. I drink water instead of soda. I added a half hour to my sleep cycle so that I sleep longer, so that I recover more. I mean, like all these little tiny things, those are each of your emails. Okay. Those are each of your things. And you're bringing them to, we stopped eating out. So another example of this is we drink an electrolyte. We add an electrolyte to it, or we have an electrolyte that we drink. And I believe they're probably $2 a packet. I think that's how much we pay. And it's really interesting, the number of people that comment, those are so expensive. What's another solution? I'm like, well, you can put salt in your water, but it's only sodium. And I'm like, $2 a packet. And yet they go to Starbucks every morning.
Yeah. Thank you.
And yet they stop and eat out every day. So you need to talk. It's because people can buy your Herbalife stuff. People can do keto, they can do vegan, they can do whatever. But if they don't change their habits, right, if they treat it like a temporary weight loss instead of a permanent lifestyle change, they'll never change. They're going to keep seesawing. So if you can start attacking that piece to help change the thinking into a complete life change, but in tiny micro moments, that's going to give you the value. People go, oh yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because I actually compare how this is working this time around to back in 2000, I don't know, 11, when I tried to lose weight, and how I was struggling to lose even 1 pound a month. But I also add to the discussion about how important your mindset is. And so I am going beyond just selling the product, because first of all, I didn't even plan on doing it, but I'm looking at it from a different angle, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, the product is just a side piece of what you're actually helping people do. And I realize that's the way you make money, but it really is just a side piece. The most successful people who actually become gold medalist Olympians, or who actually lose the weight and keep it off for decades, are the ones who completely eliminate what they were doing before.
And if I can say one thing, because it's on the recording, and this isn't really email related necessarily, but I want to bring this piece. There was another woman in the academy, and she just kept fighting me this tooth and nail. When Christina said, in that aspect of your business, you selling the product is what makes you money. There was no reason in the world why you can't create a bundle where there are weekly coaching sessions, for lack of a better word, where you're coming together for an hour, creating community, leading the group, encouraging them, and charging a heck of a lot more than just the product cost, and you bundle that up. And that, think about it, just like now, we're getting so much more done in 3 days than some of you have gotten done in 6 months.
Absolutely.
So it's like, it's that implementation piece. So add that as a possible offer for you. I don't care if nobody else is doing it. Great. Remember what we said earlier today, stand out, you do things different.
Okay.
So.
You can, I mean, there's all kinds of stories, Shamika, because like I don't eat sugar or grains of any type ever, permanent, never will. One, I'm allergic to wheat. So it's really easy for me to say, no, I have anaphylactic, I'm not celiac, like I will die, like a peanut allergy. And so it's really easy for me to go, no, I don't. But sugar is optional. And so it's really interesting because I was at an event and I'm not tempted by any of it. It's just not, I don't feel like I'm restricted or anything. And so somebody was like, somebody brought cookies and someone else came up. I was eating I don't know what I was eating. Meat, cheese, something that I could eat. And they were like, oh, these cookies look so good. Yeah, but I'm trying to lose weight. Well, we'll just like literally out loud. She was talking her brain process and I'm just listening to it going, wait, it wasn't my place. That's what needs to be fixed. So I wasn't there to critique her or anything, but I was very observant of, oh, I got to watch that in my own brain on other things. And so if I was someone who was teaching health and nutrition, I would literally be talking about the brain games that we have going through and what are, steps we have to change that, because she was like verbally out loud. And I'm like, instead of just going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and walk away, like that's Mel Robbins thing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you turn around and walk away from it. She was literally, she already knew going up, she was going to eat it. She already knew walking up to it, but she wasn't consciously aware of that. So I'm just, that's a piece that you just have to be putting in there for your stuff along those lines, because it's all here. It is 100% here.
Yes.
This dictates what goes here.
That sounds like she was negotiating with herself,
Yeah.
just like going back and forth and back and forth.
She didn't,
Just she really wasn't gonna win the argument.
yeah, she didn't really have a firm, valid reason in her mind why eating that cookie was detrimental to her.
Well,
Losing weight or doing whatever, but she in her mind. And so, and in some cases we say she didn't want it enough. Well, no, because she didn't understand the mind it was more that she didn't understand the power of this and the mind process and what was going on and how it was translating. But Shamika, that is where the success in losing weight and getting healthy comes from.
I'm sorry, every
Go
thought
ahead.
is connected to an emotion instantly.
Yeah.
You know, from there, you have to make a choice. Subconsciously, we do that. And it becomes a habit. And then it's because of what we think or the thoughts. And it's like, well, whose voice are you listening to? And once people realize that emotion can change, it's not on eagle's wings. It's based on emotions, which is going to change, will make you regret or make you happy with the choices you made if you're on his wings versus on the emotions.
Yeah. It is. It's our heart is fickle.
Mhm.
Don't follow your heart.
But
It
once
is-
that emotion can change.
Yeah, you have like there's all kinds of like I said, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is a Mel Robbins book. It's pretty amazing to help you learn to change stuff. James Clear's Atomic Habits, another one, and the Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Those are all amazing books that help with all that.
One more thing I want to say, see if I remember what I was going to say. Christina is modeling how, as you live life, if we're aware, if we're hyper aware of
what we're taking in, we can all of a sudden find content from something like we wouldn't even imagine, right? We can grab life and say, oh, wow, that, and I do that every day. It seems like every Sunday in church, I grab something and I go, oh, that applies to business too.
Yeah.
So when we say about content, I'm like crazy admire. I'm a total girl crush on Christina. I always knew she was awesome, but I didn't know quite how much. But it's like, are we awake? Please don't say you don't have content. We have tons of content, and the way Christina breaks this down just makes it so doable.
Yeah.
So.
And all of this can be used on social media posts. You can do it in videos. You can do it. I obviously teach email marketing, but it is like, I'm going through and writing down all my tips, but then I'm like, okay, so now that I do these, I'm going through and doing my order of, okay, this is what I'm going to do first. And then I'm going to send an email out, and then I'm going to expand it into a blog post. Then I'm going to do this for a video. I'm going to take the same piece of content and do it a whole bunch of different ways. There's lots of things, but here's what since it's like already 1:34, I wanted to get around to all of you, but it's just been such great conversation that we don't have time to do that. So I want you to take one of your personal topics, one of your personal things that you had, write 2 or 3 sentences, take one of the business things that you had, write 2 or 3 sentences, and you've got your first email.
Even though they're not, it seems very
Remember that phrase that I said? If you've got a personal thing and you're not quite sure how to segue that into a business tip, what's the phrase?
And on
Along those lines? Okay, so now back to business, or here's a piece that I have for you, or something, just a segue sentence. It does not have to logically connect the two. It's basically kind of like you're approaching them with a quick icebreaker. You're not going to walk up to somebody in person and go, by the way, if you clean those gutters, it's going to save you from ice dams in the winter and from whatever in the summer. You're going to start with, hey, how are you? Have you noticed what amazing plants are growing right now? I'm like, whatever, you're gonna have some sort of little icebreaker. You don't get boogie down to business right away, right? Unless you're a D like me on the desk. I'm task driven and business, and usually people are secondary to that. I have to be careful with that. Which is why I make a great drill sergeant if you need things done.
Your dog.
What?
And you love your dog. Did you say you love your pets more than people?
No, I don't know if I love my pets more than people. I love my pets. Yeah, pets listen about as much as people do, so.
But dogs will tinkle for you when you come home. They get excited.
Some of them do, you're right.
The best man of blind and tinkles for me when I get home.
So take one of those personal ideas.
There you go. There's a personal idea right now.
2 or 3 cents. I would do that, okay, I ended up writing an ad. Does your email list love you as much as your dog does? And I was inspired by a picture, and I'm going to turn that ad into an actual email. Does your email list love you as much as your dog does? And then I'll share a story about my little doggy and how crazy he gets when he's at home. But then I'll talk about well, you can make your email list love you that much too. Here's what to do. And a quick little thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's like, but that doesn't always happen. That's a great personal to segue, right? To business segue. Half the time I don't have an easy segue. It's literally a tiny bit of personal and business.
But your title is about the 2 business
No,
sentences.
that one was about, well, kind of, that
What
was
would
in
you
both
call that?
personal and business, that one. Kind of made
what would
your
you call that
email list
email?
love you like your dog or something.
Right. So I took my personal thing because I was going to tell a little story about how crazy my dog gets. But it's like, well, my dog loves me. So and I just took the 2 and married them. Does your email list love you as much as your dog does? I just married them. You don't have to do that. That just happens to be one that I saw a picture and went, was inspired by that title and inspired by the concept. The point is not that you have to have it like that all the time, because you're not. It's not going to be that wonderful to Mary at that time. Most of the time it's going to be, okay, I've got this personal thing, I've got this business thing, I don't know how to put them together, which one should be the subject line, and you literally just put the two pieces together, figure out a subject line, and move on.
Okay.
The more important piece is that you get it done and get it out there.
Yeah.
Not that it's a beautiful copywritten mini little story.
I think the personal piece is the key to really make that connection.
Yeah.
And let them say, you know what, Christina sent me another email. I can't wait to hear, a personal tidbit.
Well, and it might even not even be that they care about the personal tidbits. It's just that makes you human. It makes you human.
Yep.
So find one of those topics, those personal things, find one that inspires you real fast, write 2 or 3 sentences, something. So every time I leave the house, it doesn't matter if I'm gone for 30 minutes or 3 days. When I come home, my little chihuahua has the most amazing, excited squeals and groans. It's so loud, you couldn't hear a freight train over it. Does your email list love you as much as my chihuahua loves me? And then I would segue, here's how to make them love you. Boom. And I would put one time, whatever that little. So that's my personal to my segue to whatever the piece is. And I would be like, you need to get personal with your email list. You need to date them. And so I would do something simple. So that's an example of my email, which I'm going to write right now and use. Are we all getting one written down?
Yes.
Okay. And for those of you that we didn't get the opportunity to share your topics and questions, put them in the Facebook group and we can all like play with them, play with the ideas and stuff.
Is there like a pattern to, and maybe this is like a case by case situation, but do you end your emails with a question? Or do you give them like an action item? Like how do you normally close your emails?
So it depends on the focus of that specific email.
Okay.
And this is where the send schedule comes into play for you. Sometimes you're going to want to ask them a question so that they hit reply and answer you. Other times you're going to have created maybe a blog post or a YouTube video, or you link to, I don't know, maybe a New York Times article or a Forbes article or something that relates to what you're talking about. So that would be one option, or those would be multiple options. It depends on what you're wanting to do with them in that email, but you need to make it a variety. So sometimes it's going to be a reply to you. Sometimes it's just to read the email. Other times it's to go deeper on something you have for them. You need to mix it up. And here's what I do by default. If I don't know where to if I don't know where to send them and I'm literally writing this at the last minute or I have a busy week, I just won't send them anywhere, or I'll just ask them to hit reply and tell me number 1 or 2. Like I'll literally give them a choice, this or that.
Okay, so is this where an opt-in would come in?
No, these emails are dating. We're not asking them to, they're already on your list. They're already part of your email thing. So if you have a free opt-in that you're going to be giving people, you should send it out and just give it to them because they're already on your list.
Already in, that's right.
But here's what I've done. So an example, I wanted to do a workshop, a free workshop, no selling, no nothing. I just wanted to get this created for my members. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this as an opportunity to, okay. My 2 o'clock just canceled. That's what I was. noticing. I want to use this as an opportunity to show people how I teach, how I engage, but I don't want to sell them anything because I want them to feel comfortable coming to this thing. And so I didn't have time to put together an opt-in page. I didn't have time to do all the stuff. So I just sent out an email and I just said, hey, if you're interested in coming to this or doing this, hit reply and let me know. So the goal here is to get the email out. And if there's something blocking you from doing it, like you think you have to do something fancy or you think it has to be done, strip it away and make it simpler and get it out.
This is where I get stuck, like. I want to speak to investment properties and investors, but I'm not personally an investor yet. So what can I say? I feel like I don't have a leg to stand on, even though I know the management companies, I know who's happy with who, I know what they're doing, but since I'm not an investor yet, like, maybe I should just leave that out completely. But it's a huge part. I work with investors.
Then there you go, then you know what you need to know. Because you're still working in that capacity that you know.
Yeah.
I think you're overthinking.
I do that. I'll start to write something. I'm like, no, I'm not an investor, so I can't speak. to
No,
that.
but you represent investors and you know how to direct them to make a smart choice.
Okay.
Does that help?
And you know, investment properties that may or may not be coming up soon. So you can connect them.
And sometimes if you lack that knowledge, you have the resources to get them what they need, and you have that.
I often get questions of like, where do people want to live? Like, how do you meet neighbors? What part of town do people want to live in most? You know, do they want to live midtown? Do they want to live at the harbor? And how am I going to meet people? How can I become a part of the community? Like that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But as I'm going through my little notes and finding some stuff of, you know, yeah, I'm finding some little nuggets that I could somehow merge together.
Just always be thinking micro. Micro. What's one tiny little micro moment or thought or tool or resource or something that they can quickly bite on and be done in your emails?
I think I'm really struggling with this revealing pieces of me, like what you said at the beginning, because I went through and I answered a whole bunch of these email starters, like the one about chocolate, why I love dark chocolate, but it's so hard for me to think of putting that out there because it's like, why are they going to care what I think about chocolate?
They don't. What they care is what they think about chocolate. And if you like chocolate and they like chocolate, they like you.
It sparks.
It sparks a connection.
Yeah, it sparks a connection.
This is really, really difficult for me.
Yeah.
consider myself to be a pretty transparent and vulnerable person, but like I can't get this out of my head, and
Let's work through it. So tell me again where to go.
So actually, I want to know something. When you're meeting somebody new for the first time, do you are you a person who would talk with them and just have conversations and try to find things in common to talk about?
yeah.
This is the exact same thing.
Yeah, it just feels different because in person I have no issue. I have a lot of words, but with this, it's like that blinking cursor syndrome. Even though if we're going to talk about chocolate, I feel so silly just stating it.
Well, you don't necessarily state it. You could talk about something like, okay, this is an easy segue, but Halloween. If it's around Halloween and you have kids, an easy way to talk about chocolate would be, are there any other moms like me that helps their kids sort their candy when their kids are asleep every night?
Yeah, right.
What's your favorite? Mine's the Snickers. And then you go on. That's how you talk about chocolate in relation to you and making a connection with someone else.
That's a perfect Halloween one.
It is. It's a great one. You can even do Easter, around Easter for Easter baskets, but it's also like random times about chocolate. Maybe you go to a wedding and there's a chocolate fountain. And you could even say, I was at a wedding recently and there was this chocolate fountain, and I was actually like, there was this weird thing that people were putting, like if there was something unusual, like people are putting in the chocolate fountain, you could do that and say, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen people at a wedding, you know, whatever. Like there's all kinds of ways to just do that.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense when you say it to me, but I don't think I make any sense saying it to them.
Wait, would Jesus like chocolate? When you say that, when you ask a question,
He would have to.
do you,
Well, there you go. Don't you think?
after that is when you put in topics, like business topics or
Yeah.
lifestyle topics? So
Yeah.
you ask that question, it's fine.
Yeah, so I would, it's more of a rhetorical question, but it's really just to get them to see that I'm a real human. And if they want to hit reply and answer it, that's great. So let's use the chocolate fountain one. And when you ask, like, or maybe you went out for chocolate fondue or something, what's the weirdest or the oddest combination you've ever seen or ever had when it comes to a chocolate fountain? And you could say, I've had shrimp with a chocolate fountain. I'm literally making stuff up at this point, and do that. And then a way to segue that into business would be, what's the oddest thing you've seen in your coaching practice, or the oddest or most unusual pain you've had in your chronic pain, like that nobody else has, or menopause symptom, or the oddest thing, a piece of weight loss advice somebody's given you. I mean, you can literally take that tiny little thing about chocolate and a fountain and odd and turn it into something else.
Everything you say sounds funny and entertaining.
I think it's because we're
cute
too
and
close
witty.
to it.
And literally, I wrote this crap down that I'm reading. I'm like, oh, yarn.
It's not crap. That is literally the
Do you meditate? Meditation makes me feel more focused and ready for any challenge. Buying your first home can be challenging, but to begin, focus on building your credit and job stability and longevity.
So you sound like an ad.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And meditation, do you actually meditate?
Sometimes.
Okay. So I would go more into like, you love the idea of meditation, but you're inconsistent with it. Like,
Right.
share the real piece of you. This isn't an ad about, this is not.
That you're inconsistent and wishy-washy.
No, you enjoy dancing.
No, it's not. You're human. And see, that's what we're afraid. We're afraid to let the people know that, like, yeah, I mean, like, okay, so if I said, yeah, the weirdest thing I've ever eaten is shrimp and chocolate, and people are like, that's gross, I will get people who will reply and go, that's gross. And I'm like, yep, you're right, it was. I mean,
And you know what else you're like? You're like, yay, my deliverability just went up.
right. So it's that you stop. It's hard. That's why we're trying to pick these little topics, because we have to take away the veil of this fake facade without bringing us into our wounds. We do not need to bring them into the wounds that we are dealing with right now.
Wow.
We don't have to talk about, we don't have to talk about whether we're going to get the vaccine or not. That's not the kind of stuff we need to talk about. Because maybe we don't want to reveal that piece, but doggone it, you can reveal that you're inconsistent with your meditation, but you'd really like to do more. Do you meditate? Can you give me some ideas on how to be more consistent?
Okay.
One thing I'm really consistent on is boom, 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 business.
Okay.
Because we're not all always inconsistent. We're not all always consistent. We're not all beautifully mindset in one thing. Like, we're human. We have things we're awesome at. We have things we suck at.
Amen.
But it makes us real. It makes us a human. And that's what I said. Do it on something that doesn't hurt. That's really, it reveals who you are, what you want to do and what you want to achieve, but doesn't talk about, like, I have 4 boys. All 4 are adopted. 2 were adopted domestically. And the 2 that adopted domestically came with a plethora of, we call it mental special needs. At times life was a nightmare. And when we sold everything and traveled the country for a couple of years in a motorhome, and we were asked 5 different times to be on TV shows about that. And I was like, there's no way in HE double hockey stick I am ever going to reveal this to the world, because people disagreed with our parenting choices, even though at times we had 10 different professionals and therapists guiding us I was like, there's no way. I am not revealing that. I'm not going to talk. There's still a lot that I will absolutely not share. Not my journey to share, it's theirs. And I won't share this because people don't understand. But I can share things like, it's a struggle. We know how they come damaged, they come this. I mean, I can share other things that are general, but there was no way I don't care about 15 minutes of fame. I don't care about the money. There was no way, because I was not going to be a Kate. John and Kate Bliss. I was not going to cut. And I knew that's exactly how they would portray me and our family. Nope. So it's just a whole, I'm not going to come from there, but I can share other things. You can share other things.
Christina, I fell even more in love with you just now. Come on.
Can we just send you our answers and you can just tell us what to say?
Right.
Is it one of those things, Christina, where it's like exercise the muscle and all of a
That's
sudden it starts
does,
to
yeah.
flow, right?
Exactly.
You have to put it out imperfect. Like, one thing that keeps coming to mind, which I don't know if I'll ever share this or not, but we've literally put 2 of our kids in timeout in the middle of Costco with their nose on the wall.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
Some people walk by and gave you judgy looks, and other people walk by and gave you thumbs up.
Yeah.
that's
Applause.
fine, because I don't care what they think in person. I don't care.
No, you've got to.
It's when they're emailing. So I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't be sharing that, because people go, that's abuse. I mean, literally, I shared my dog with a little muzzle on his mouth because he wouldn't stop barking, and people were calling me an animal abuser. And I'm like, my vet literally told me to do this because he has a little muzzle on his mouth. Like, so you're going to get that, but just be aware of that. My kids are all grown now. They literally can't be hurt by someone else, like calling CPS or anything. They're adults. So I am more apt to share some of the things that we did now, so that somebody doesn't get a little bee in their bonnet and do it. So that's sharing from the scar, not the wound. And that's something Amy Porterfield talks about. You share from the scar, not the wound. If you're fresh in it right now, share other things.
So good.
So I hope that you guys can write some emails. What I really would love is if you guys would write one and put it in the group, each one of you.
Okay.
I see some excitement and some.
Here's the piece to it. So help me, if you spend more than 10 minutes on this, I will reach through the screen and slap you. Each one of you.
I'll just bend over. You can get the paddle right now.
10 minutes or less, because I want you to be able to really get this like quick. I want to see what it looks like rough and in its really rough format.
Switch from the willow tree to grandmother.
Okay, you guys?
Yeah, we're here.
We're way past our time, so I don't want to put it in the group, go for a walk or whatever Judy's got for you next, but stand up, walk around.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina.
Guys,
Bye.
have fun.
Thanks, you too. God bless, hon.
My stubborn